Hey guys, welcome to the Podtendo podcast. If you're new to the show, it's the first one you're listening to, random choice, but okay. We spend about the first, 5-10 minutes talking about a random topic, bantering. Sometimes we slur our speech, we don't talk properly, as I do it like twice in the opening sentence. Good job, me. I did spend 2.5 hours in like a spin class today, so maybe I'm just tired and dehydrated. But that's kind of the way it works. If you don't like the kind of the banter, skip ahead until you hear a sound cue, then we'll start the show proper, get into the actual topic. But the first little bit, more for the uninitiated, or I guess kind of more of our like core following of people. I like the little rambles. So, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Can't complain. Yeah, no, life's good. We kind of discussed, we did like media the last couple times. We talked TV shows and movies and stuff. Here's a random thing. Have you ever heard of something called a rainbow party before?
Sounds familiar, but I couldn't describe it to somebody if they asked, so yeah.
All right, so a rainbow party, and I'm sure you were invited to a lot of them, so as soon as I start talking about it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this back in the day. Yeah. So apparently there was a big PSA that came out, and I've heard it brought up again from Oprah back in the day about rainbow parties, and how moms should talk to their kids about the dangers of it. So a rainbow party is like a girl will be like, hey friends, you should all come over to my house, and you should bring different colors of lipstick. We will then invite a bunch of boys over, and we're going to take turns putting their dicks in our mouth with our lipstick, and we're going to put their lipstick on their dicks to turn them into rainbows.
I do remember hearing about this.
Yeah. I heard about it. I'm pretty sure it was like on a podcast or something like that. And I remember listening and like being like, this is stupid. And then it was just brought up again in some video I was listening to, and like, is this a real thing that real people are doing? And I was like, where were these people when I was in school?
The way I figured that we grew up in small town BC, so there wasn't a lot of just slutty kids running around. Most kids in our high schools, at least when I grew up, had like their one relationship that lasted almost like several like grades. Like if they started dating like grade 9, they almost continued dating to like grade 11 or 12. Like that was kind of the way it worked. And like, yeah, there was the slutty girls or whatever, but they were usually just like that one girl, and she was like all about some sports team or whatever. So I don't know. There was never groups of slutty girls where we came from.
So Tyson is openly admitting he has never been to a rainbow party, nor has he had one where he is part of the rainbow.
No,
part of the rainbow. Yeah.
No, right. Never been a part of it. How about you? What are your experiences in rainbow parties?
Other than hearing about it, like I'm pretty sure that's something that someone made up. I don't think anyone actually does that. Because, I mean, from my experience, I mean, maybe it's just like maybe the generation before us were a bit more open, but everyone I like knew were extremely awkward around each other. There was very few, and nowadays people are extremely awkward. Like millennials, people don't have normal conversations anymore. Like I'll go to a grocery store, if I'm standing at the liquor store, if I go to anywhere and just having a conversation with like a younger person right now, you can see them almost being shocked and they don't know how to react, and just having that confidence to be able to say, hey, how's it going? Oh yeah, blah blah blah. It's bizarre. Like I don't think people have the social skills anymore, so I can't imagine you go from having no social skills and being awkward to putting dicks in your mouth with different colored lipsticks on. That's my thought.
Yeah, and I am very much in the same kind of train of thought. Like talking to anyone who's a few years younger than you is just like, man, you're struggling to just like you'll talk to them about whatever, and I know I'm fairly social. Part of my job is to be a social person, so I'm very confident. I can basically talk to anyone from like 13 to 90. So
those 12-year-olds though, it's just you don't know what to say. It's just so awkward. I don't know.
Well, it's like adventure time. It's like I don't know what that is. And you're like, shit, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
So like I feel, and when we talk to like the younger generation, they tend to be like, or even kids a few years younger than me that are in a different line of work, they have a hard time kind of finding common ground. I can usually find a common ground and just kind of elaborate and talk. Kids these days, as my old self likes to say, is I seem to think that they only know one thing, and it's like, if I send up you a picture of myself, that's a conversation, right? You're like, no, it's not even close to a conversation, but it's a start, I guess, because my girlfriend has some younger siblings, and the most that they talk is like through Snapchat. And you're like, why is this a thing? Snapchat seems like the dumbest thing ever. But then, like I said on the bus, and I see people my age to younger, they all just Snapchat each other, and it's usually like one word in a picture, and you're like, how is this a conversation? And
instant gratification, instant gratification. So
yeah, I think it's one of those things where through social media, it's not being social. It's more of just being like, this is how I look. Do you like how I look? Because if you like how I look, we should look at each other.
I think too, it's just how easy. I think it's not even about what's available and what people do now. I think it's just historic. Like there's always been really awkward groups of people, and people have always had hard times dealing with social situations. Now you can just escape, and you have those outlets, and you can interact with one another with simple pictures or Snapchats or stuff like simple Twitter conversations. Whereas maybe 15 years ago, that just wasn't an option. You were just awkward, and you just stood in like the corner of a room and you didn't say anything. Now we rag on that same person for playing on his phone. It's the same difference as him being weird in like the party, or he goes to the store and like looks weird and just awkward walking around. So I think those things have always existed. They just have different outlets, and now they have there's like a voice of the awkward. That's all we're getting. So I mean, some people are awkward, some people are quiet, some people don't like to talk, some people are fine just being like, no, I'm good, yep, all right. Like I've got a couple friends that we call them just like chair fillers. Like you can bring them to a party, you can hang out and drink with them. They don't add anything to the evening or the night, but they're there, and it's fun to have them there.
Yeah.
And I mean, like that's existed forever, right? So
True.
This is nowadays. I think it gets out, and people like to say, "Well, look at these people on their phone. They have no social skills." Social skills are really hard to acquire, right? So
True.
It's like, I mean, you remember going to a store with me, and like I'll flirt, quote unquote, with the cashier. I'm just having like normal conversations, and I'm like that all the time. I'll be standing with Tamara in line, and I'll be like talking to the cashier just about like random nonsense, and you can tell definitely they're like, thank God I've had like one normal conversation in this like 8-hour day where most people are just like, here's stuff, give me food, blah, blah, blah. Right? So
yeah, or the most they say is like credit or debit, and yes or no to a bag question. Like, do you want a bag? No. Debit. It's like,
some people just aren't social. Like I go to a restaurant and I like to play around, and you chat with the waitress and, hey, what do you want to drink? I'm like, don't surprise me. You're like, what do you like? And you see them panic all of a sudden, because like most of the time you're like, I want a double pot mocha latte, and I swear to God, if there's more than this, I will kill you. And they're like, all right, cool, thanks.
You better have 3.5 pumps of vanilla. If there's 3 3/4, my lord, I will send it back. And you're like, oh my God.
So I think more people just be chill and just kind of happy with what they are.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into sondering, but sondering is the realization that you are just, every person is the most important person in their life, regardless of what happens. So you understand that you see someone at the store who's like frustrated and running around and pulling their kids by their arms, and you're like, what a loser. That person has a completely different little life, and you mean nothing to them. Mm-hmm. So just that understanding and realization that everyone, I mean, I guess it's kind of sad and negative in a sense, where you understand that no one really cares about anyone else, and like someone cuts you off in traffic, they could be like rushing to a job interview, they might be having a kid that's kicking them in the seat, they might be like trying to race home to get to the toilet. You don't know the situation, but then to like negatively take that out and be like, hey, fuck you, what an asshole, he wrecked my day. Why let their life affect yours? Sondering.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
That's my philosophy.
I've never heard that term before, but it's very true. Like, you can't let other people affect your life. You have to live your life by yourself, and if you see something that you don't like, you're like, okay, my only kind of rebuttal to that is like if I see somebody like kicking a dog or like literally pulling a dog along who's just like clearly like either an older dog or just trying to do their business, and you're like, okay, you have a responsibility to that animal and you got to take care of it. But that being said, like I have a bigger dog, so like he pulls me down the road all the time, and I get like once a month I get that comment of who's walking who, and you're like, oh god, don't say that. Like it's not my fault that my dog literally like he's doing his like pulling and like running around because he needs to. That's his bathroom dance. That's how he gets his like bowels going. Some people like drink their coffee or whatever, but he's like, oh no, I gotta like get a good pace on before I can like do my business. So it's like, but the outside looking in is going to be like, oh, this guy's an asshole. He's just letting his dog pull him down the road. And you're like, no, it's I'm trying my best, but my dog just literally needs to like, he gets really, really pulley and he needs to like go because he's doing his bathroom dance. And as soon as he does his bathroom dance, he's like, yeah, I'm cool. I can stand and walk next to you. It's totally fine. I don't care. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like your rebuttal, if you see someone like doing something evil, like somebody robbing a grocery store and like shooting someone in the grocery store, that's bad.
Yeah.
Like people do bad stuff, and you can be like, "Wow, that was bad. What a bad person." You don't have to like be like, "Well, he had a hard like." You don't have to get that involved in it. It's like little minor incidences that we tend to overreact. So somebody cuts in front of you, or you see someone like someone spills a coffee on themselves. I don't know, just like little more minor things. So
yeah, being impatient and acting kind of rude when they shouldn't be, kind of things.
Yeah, like molesting a small child. That's a bad thing. Like you can't be like, well, you don't understand their backstory. Like that's not what I'm trying to say. It's more like minor things. But I mean, again,
that's fair.
Maybe that guy is just like mentally like needs help, right?
Yeah.
So. All right, I want to get into this awesome game after some fun. What was that? I think it's more philosophical, sociological talk.
Yeah, a little bit different than pop culture.
Nice. Let us know what you like best, Internet. Let's get into today's game.
You are witnessing a new technology. The first and only game powered by the Super FX microchip. Why go to the next level when you can go light years beyond? You are Fox McCloud in Star Fox, only for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Welcome to the Podtendo podcast, where we analyze, reminisce, and replay the glory of old Nintendo games. We can be contacted on Twitter at Podtendo Podcast. Email us at podtendo@gmail.com or check us out at Facebook at facebook.com/podtendo. I'm your co-host, Lounge Pants Mick, and I'm joined every episode by my co-host.
I'm still going to go with Valley Girl Tyson.
I like Valley Girl Tyson. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It shows people that the likes are coming.
It just sets people up to know what's going on. Like, whatever.
And then when I get stuck and can't think of a word and I use like 15 times in a sentence, don't judge me because I told you what I was.
Yeah. I feel like the worst offender of that of all time in the history of the show is when you're trying to explain the different timelines of Chrono Trigger.
Oh, God.
Even though I edited it, like I went back and listened, and it doesn't really make sense. I feel like that's one of those things. Maybe we should have done like a second take on that one,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of confusing, and I didn't do a ton of research or write any notes down, so that was me off the top of my head trying to remember a very complex thing.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, like I've gone back and I've listened to every show since basically last year's South Park episode forward. I think for the most part they're really good. Like that's the only one that stood out that I like cringed at, and I was like, oh yikes. I mean, now that I've fixed the recording on Super Metroid, it's better. So
That's good.
Yeah. All right, so today's game, we're looking at our first NES classic games. Even though I feel like we've played lots of NES classics, this is kind of maybe the first one we'll dub the NES classic.
Yeah, it's the first one that we've both played on the console, finally. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. The first game we're looking at is Star Fox. The release date was March 23rd, 1993. How Long to Beat has this title at about an hour and a half. The price at release was $49.99. If we factor in inflation, that would be $76.31, which is different from my $83.97, which appears in all the rest of the shows. So maybe I actually did something this time. Weird.
Neat.
eBay price, you can get a copy of this game for about $20 to $45. If you're a diehard Nintendo collector, $20 for a loose card of this game, it's not terrible by any means, like have in your collection. So,
No, and it's one of the classics, so you definitely should play this if you are a fan of Super Nintendo games. Like, this is a game that you should have ticked off, and it's not a long game, so
this is going to be the podcast of two mix. Let's put it this way. So my notes are going to say one thing. Me sitting here today that has maybe played the game a couple more times since I wrote the notes will say another thing. So just remember that, everybody. So we'll talk you through that too. I'm just going to put that out as a disclaimer right now. And then eShop price. This game did not get a virtual console release. It is just on the SNES Classic. So this is a true SNES Classic. The only way you can play this game is that unless you use illegal emulators.
Mm-hmm.
But don't do that. That's bad.
That's very bad.
All right, so roll through the development details. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these. Some of them are kind of interesting, so maybe I will just jump around a little bit, or I'm going to read really quickly, because I think there's a lot better stuff to talk about. So the game company Nintendo worked closely with was Argonaut during the early years of the NES and SNES. Or S, yeah, that makes sense. They developed a prototype on the NES, initially coded NES Glider. Programmer Jez San told Nintendo that this was as good as they could get and allowed them to design a custom hardware to make the Super Nintendo look better at 3D. This was called the Super FX chip. So if you ever watch any like old nostalgia stuff on the Super Nintendo, the Super FX chip was brought up a couple times. It was developed by Argonauts, and it helped that kind of create that 3D game environment. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's actually, considering the hardware limitations that they're working with, pretty impressive.
And I think Mode 7 as well as the Super FX chip is what helped push the Super Nintendo kind of past the Sega Genesis in terms of technological advances. And just the fact that the games seem a little bit more diverse. Like, you go back and play Super Metroid and you're like, this is great. I don't think Super Metroid could exist on the Genesis. So this is one of the origins of basically... thanks to Argonaut, I think Nintendo kind of has that foothold in the video game market still today. So, cool. Miyamoto stated that he wanted the Star Fox series to star animal characters, since he was not interested in making a series with conventional science fiction heroes with humans, robots, monsters, or superheroes. Miyamoto created several puppets and photographed them to use as artwork for the cover of the Star Fox game. Miyamoto was a fan of the English puppet dramas, such as Thunderbirds, so he wanted the game cover to feature puppets. The game was released under the title Starwing in Europe, due to the similarity of Star Fox to a German company called Starvox. Germans, god damn it.
It is interesting, the actual cover of this game that shows Fox McCloud with his metal legs.
Mm-hmm. We will get to that at the end. A weird little... And I think there's another game where he's like shown running. It's like Star Fox Adventures. But yeah, there are these weird little animals with metal legs. Why would they have metal legs, Tyson?
I don't know, Mick. I guess we'll have to wait.
We'll have to wait and find out. Now, these next ones I'm definitely going to hit on because I think they're really weird. So the game was released in the spring of 1993 for the Super Nintendo and quickly became a phenomenon. Before it was released, pre-orders exceeded 1.7 million copies.
Holy smokes. If companies wish for those numbers these days.
Right? And I'm like, that's very interesting. I mean, maybe that's why it's so cheap on eBay, just because there's so many of them. And in order to keep up with the pre-order demand, Nintendo shipped 1 million game cartridges on the game's opening weekend. Some dropped by parachutes to stores such as Sears.
What? Like, is this... That's...
a real fact. I didn't even make that up.
That's insane. That's crazy.
So apparently the 1993 was the Wild West, and apparently the movie, like the TV show Tailspin, where everyone just flew around in planes, was a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, apparently that's just real life. Like, they didn't screw around. They're like, nope, this is actually a thing. We do parachute drops for supplies.
I suppose, and somebody was like sitting there and being like, "God damn these parachutes! If only someone could create a better delivery system, universal parachute system, UPS." But we could do it by ground. Maybe that's what UPS stands for.
I wonder.
Huh. I mean, I guess, like, nowadays we have drones, but back in the day they had weird parachutes, so, yeah, that's, yeah. Oh, there's a phone ringing. That's great for the recording. To promote this game, Nintendo created Star Fox-themed kiosks, which loosely resembled an R-Wing, and sent them to Sears stores. A TV with a VCR stood next to the kiosk, and if one sat in the chair inside the kiosk, then it would rumble and respond to the action on the screen. Another game promotion was the Super Star Fox Weekend competition, in which specially rigged Star Fox cartridges set to time themselves for 4 minutes were played. The objective of the competition was to get the highest score by shooting down the most enemies within the time limit. Prizes included a free trip to one of 4 locations around the globe, along with flight pins, flight jackets, and other assorted winnings. So, I had no idea this was the biggest game in the history of the world.
Yeah, I did not expect that this had this kind of a launch. Like, no, I kind of expect, like, most video game launches be like, oh yeah, there's some pre-order bonuses. I want to win some flight pins and some flight jackets.
Yeah.
Like, where are these today? Can I buy one of these on eBay?
As I talk about the controls, I'm also going to try and eBay it or Google it, and we'll see if I can find anything. So the controls... Actually, do you want to run through the controls? You have the notes, right?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
The directional pad moves you around in 3D space, which never has an issue. There is multiple.
That's supposed to be sarcastic, which never has an issue.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I didn't have many problems with it, but it's a little bit like loose. There's I think 4 different control types. So if you're an up-down person or you're inverted up and down, you can kind of take advantage of that. You can switch up the controls before you start playing. You can also try out the different options and see which one works best for you, which I definitely needed to do. I'm an inverted person when it comes to flying, but in first-person shooters, I need the up-down. I'm a non-inverted vertical person. That's just personal preference. You can shoot and use bombs, use boost as well as brake. So the buttons will do some combination for those options. You can also do a barrel roll. For the most part, with some practice, the controls of this game are actually pretty good. You'll also have the ability to switch your view. You can fly in the third person or first person. Why would anyone ever want to use the first person? Beats Mick. I like to use the first person when it comes to a few of the space levels. But that's just because I kind of suck at aiming just in the third person view.
I'll get into it after we kind of go through the Wayback Machine. I'll get into... there's nothing on eBay, by the way. So if you have a Star Fox flight jacket, it's like a unicorn. Hold on to it because it's very rare.
Damn.
Yeah. Again, the Tale of Two Mix. I had a very horrible first experience with this game. I mean, it's not bad now. I think it's just practice and repetition. I'm not used to that. I want to pick things up and be good at them right away. So, goddamn millennials.
Yeah.
Goddamn millennials. But before we remember too much about this game, where parachutes are dropping out of the air carrying video games, which is still just weird. Like, that can't be a real thing. Someone must have, like, wrote it on Wikipedia and just copied it down like an asshole. We're gonna get...
Yeah, that's gotta be shenanigans.
Yeah, like, that can't be real. So we're gonna get into our Wayback Machine. Which is going to take us back into March of 1993, to kind of give us a feel for what's going on, what was happening back in the Wild West. Our favorite show, The Simpsons. The episode was Duffless. Homer gives up drinking after being caught for drunk driving during a Duff factory tour. Lisa also pits Bart against a hamster for her science project. Pretty good episode.
That is a good episode.
Like
and actually, yeah, there's a good resolution too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I think like Bart wins the science contest if I win by putting the hamster in a plane and having him sit there with a little scarf.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
So there's no science involved, but he's like, could hamsters fly? Look how cute he is, and they're like, that's well done, Bart.
It's like, good job, you win.
But I also feel like Springfield had a very shady way of determining contests, because I'm pretty sure Ralph once won a diorama by just having originally in-box Star Wars action figures. So
yep, and Principal Skinner was just like, I think we have a winner.
yeah. So it's a little bit shady, these science fairs, and he's like, but I also feel like that's just most like after I never went to a science fair, but I imagine that's how the science fair is won. It's very shady.
Yeah, I think that's 100% accurate.
All right. So if this is our favorite episode, I like to look back and I'm going to find a different show that potentially could take over and become our new favorite show. Or would we rather watch Eek the Cat? Specifically the episode The Eek Exterminator. Today is Wendy Elizabeth's birthday. Does that name ring a bell? And Eek gives her a termite farm. Later on, with the aid of his termite pal, Termy, Eek has to help the termites, a couple of spiders, and himself escape from the exterminator that Mom summoned. Sounds like a pretty great episode of that show.
I do remember Eek the Cat.
He was purple, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it was kind of like a bit darker. Wasn't
Yeah.
it also spliced with another couple shorts? It had like, what was it, dinosaurs or thundering dino lizards or something like that.
I have no idea. I know the name Wendy Elizabeth really jumped out to me, and when I Googled it, I was horrified by what I saw. So everyone right now that's not driving or operating heavy machinery, go on your computer, pull up your phone, Google Wendy Elizabeth from Eek the Cat, and you're like, what the fucking shit balls is going on?
Yeah, I know. The Terrible Thunder Lizards is the other one.
Terrible Thunder. Yeah, that's early Fox programming is great, you know?
It's something.
It was a thing, I suppose. So, of those two shows, which one are you picking?
Simpsons. I gotta go with Simpsons.
Hey, we got a winner! Simpsons won again!
Of course they did.
Nice. Nice. Well, after meeting you, they probably felt bad. You were picking all these other shows over them the last couple weeks, so...
Yeah, I had to mix it up so I can use Simpsons more often.
That's fair, and then it's more shocking. All right. So, other top TV shows we could be watching right now. Frasier, Seinfeld, The X-Files premiered, and Cheers was in its last season. So, cool stuff.
I do remember when the X-Files premiered. That's a pretty awesome,
Yeah.
first couple episodes.
I was going back and watching just the mythology episodes of the X-Files. There's some good ones, you know, and it's actually... It's good because clearly aliens exist in that world, but a lot of the philosophical complaints that Scully and Mulder kind of face and go through in their day-to-day, it's good, you know? Like, it's definitely a very well-done show, because it's more than just, there's aliens. They kind of deal with things like the human condition and just other kind of social constructs. So I like shows that kind of have a bit deeper network, right, or framework than that, so...
True.
Yeah. Top cartoons. So something more of a kid that's probably interested in. Tiny Toons Adventure, Bobby's World, Tailspin. See, this is why there's so many parachutes. Doug, Darkwing Duck, and The Rugrats. I do remember when The Rugrats came out, so...
Yeah, I remember I actually rewatched a few of the episodes because somehow I seem to remember that, like, they would actually go into, like, a different world all the time instead of just... They're just running around the real world pretending like it's something else. So I don't know where those memories come from. I only watched the first couple episodes from first couple of seasons. So
very interesting. So Tyson's theoretical birthday. For some reason, he always goes to the movie theaters. He gets to take a friend. He gets his popcorn with his M&Ms and his small pop because he's got a small bladder and he doesn't want to run out. He can watch one of 3 movies right now in the movie theaters. Fire in the Sky. You probably wouldn't watch that because it's about scary alien abduction. Point of No Return. I have no idea what that movie's about. Or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. I think the choice is probably pretty obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. Point of no return.
Point of no return all the way. I mean,
all the way.
I mean, who doesn't want to watch a classic drama starring Kim Basinger, you know?
Or is it Basinger?
I don't know how to say this.
Yeah, no idea.
All right. Then afterwards, Tyson gets to open up a mystery gift, which could be any video game he wants for his birthday. It could be Doom, Myst. I feel like Myst was in a couple episodes ago too. But I was like, if you get Myst, you need like a powerful computer that just no one had. So probably not playing that one. You could play though the Secret of Mana with your friend because it's co-op. Kirby's Adventure, or the high-powered Mega Man X. So pretty exciting.
Yeah. Those last three and Doom are pretty awesome. I'm gonna skip Myst because I have never played Myst and have no inclination to play Myst.
The new Doom port for the Switch?
Not yet. I've heard it's pretty good though.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Basically, I beat Mario Odyssey, and then I was like, man, I want to play Breath of the Wild. So playing Breath of the Wild, FYI, if it's not before this, it might be after this. We might finish up our Breath of the Wild Chronicles. At some point, I'm going to go back and listen and see what we haven't done, and then maybe like talk to Tyson and finish that series. So
yeah, and figure out where we left off on that.
That's where I'm at, because I basically want to play up until the point where we left off, and then like re-experience all those things so I can talk about them again. So
fair enough.
Yeah, cool. The top music that is playing in the car while Tyson is being driven to the theater to watch this for his theoretical birthday. I think I played up the birthday angle a lot more at the beginning. Now I don't do that. It's sad. But top 3 songs you'd be listening to in March of 1993. The number 3 song, A Whole New World by Peebo Bryson.
No.
You've never heard of A Whole New World?
I would have to hear it.
Like, I'm pretty sure it's I can show you the world.
Oh, that's that song?
Shining, yes. Shimmering, splendid. Tell me, Tyson, now when did you last let your heart decide?
I believe I heard that on last time I heard that was at your wedding.
Could you imagine if it's not that song? Don't look it up. I don't want to know. I hope it is. I hope it is.
I hope it's not.
All right. The number 2 song was Informer by Silk.
Another song that I know like the back of my hand.
You don't know Informer? I'm an informer. I'm an informery guy. Everybody asks me questions. No? Right?
No.
I'm sure that's not how that song goes either. Or the number 1 song, That's the Way Love Goes by Janet Jackson.
Oh, God. I can't wait for us to get to the later Super Nintendo or N64 where I recognize some of these songs.
But wasn't That's the Way Love Goes on Yoshi Safari?
I have no idea.
Like, I think that was one of the top songs.
It could have been.
Oh, dear. Let me see if I can pull it up in a different one as we're going. Let's see. Yoshi Safari. And then we'll feel like real jerks, you know?
Yep, for just not remembering something that we recorded not too long ago.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, wait, did I hear this song? I mean, I think all Janet Jackson songs are like love something. Like love.
Yeah, it's true.
Love, pass me by.
Or that other song like Love the Way You Walk or something.
In fact, it was.
Sure that's a song.
In fact, it was. That's the Way Love Goes by Janet Jackson. So Tyson, you have heard that song before at least
I
A
have.
10-second clip. What a liar. All right, moving on to the first memories of this game. So I'm just going to read off my notes, and then we'll go from there. So I do actually recall renting this game from a video store near the community hall when we lived in small town BC. I'm guessing that the difficulty and kind of the look was sort of unappealing, and I don't feel like I played it for super long. But the release date does match up with the time, like when we moved timeline, so it's probably right around before we were moving that I would have played this, and for some reason it just didn't stand out to me as like a great game, I guess, event. I don't know. So you first memories?
Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you the very first time I encountered this game. It's kind of a blank spot in my memory. I was like, I feel like I knew this game existed, but only because I played Star Fox 64. And someone must have been along those lines and been like, yeah, there's a Super Nintendo game. It's like, oh, cool. And then I saw a picture of it, and you're like, I never need to play this. Look at these graphics.
Yeah, they're pretty rough.
Yeah, they're not great, especially when you're it was in the age of graphics was the only thing that mattered.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and I guess in that one, our Wayback Machine did not help at all. So, I mean, we didn't even go to the Sears parachute party, so it's too bad.
I really feel like I missed out.
Really missed out. But, without further ado, let's move onwards to the story of this game. Andros, a scientist, has fled to the planet Venom after being banished from the planet Corneria, and has declared war on Corneria and unleashed an enormous army to wreak havoc on the LAT system. General Pepper, the commanding officer of Corneria's defense force, a prototype highly performed fighter craft called the R-Wing. However, lacking in time to train new pilots, he summons the elite mercenary team Star Fox to defeat Andros. Fox McCloud, the leader of the team, is accomplished by his teammates Falco Lombardi, Pepper Hare, and Slippy Toad. Good luck, guys. This also might be the exact same story for the next game. Wow, what a great story. I don't say that as much anymore. It's sad. Or absolutely, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. On to the level notes. So this part of the podcast, the point of the show, I don't know why I don't include it in the beginning. The idea is this is supposed to be supplementary material, so you can put on a game such as like Star Fox for the Super Nintendo, put this on and then play along, and we kind of talk about the experience. We kind of add to it. And it's not meant as a walkthrough. It's not meant to spoil things. It's just meant to kind of help you get through it. Potentially you've played it and you beat it already. You come back and listen to it. And after the fact, you say, okay, cool. So that's kind of what we're going for with the level notes. So starting off, we can choose our controller setup. So Tyson's inverter. I think I just played by default. It did take me like an extra second because I really had to think sometimes. I'm like, okay, I want to fly down. What button do I press? And I ended up playing like pressing both up and down. So play it for a while, get used to that. Makes the game a little bit easier. We select the path that we want to travel on. So we've got path 1, path 2, and path 3. So Tyson, you played through all 3 paths? 2 paths?
All 3.
Okay. I played through path 1, got stuck on one of the bosses. I think I played through path 2. Same thing happened to me. And I left upset. I rebeat path 1 yesterday, so... And, yeah.
So, are you calling path 1 the one up top?
No, that's like the middle one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's what the guide or like it says on the screen. It's like path 1, normal, and then path 2, hard, and then it's like very hard.
Gotcha.
So path 1, middle path. It's pretty standard. So you start in Corneria, which is a pretty standard entry level. You shoot polygons and avoid enemy fire. The pickups also look like enemies. So on the first time through, you'll probably miss them because you're just like flying around and you have no idea what's going on in this crazy little world that exists. The boss for every level is just kind of the same. They're like a weird polygonal thing floating around. They've got a red area. You shoot it and avoid their fire, and you win. Yay.
Yeah, and you can do barrel rolls to kind of, like, if they shoot missiles or big bombs at you, you can kind of spin around them. It's about the only cool thing that you can really do.
Yeah, and it does, and like I'll say later in the notes, but I found it is quite disorienting when you're playing this for the first time, because especially, like, I don't think this game was meant to be on a big screen. It doesn't look great. It's shapes flying at you. There's so much going on. you might just have to like let it play a couple times and like know you're going to die to have a good time with this game, because it doesn't look great. I mean, I appreciate it's one of the early entries into the 3D world, but it like definitely struggles a little bit, and you can see the shortcomings of it. So, the second area is the asteroids. Here, the game automatically takes you to first-person view, which I'm not a fan of. So anytime it switches me, I switched back to the third person so I could kind of avoid things better. I found that was the only way I could kill things in this. Basically, I just ran into asteroids and died in first person. So
That's fair. It's you almost need to be like really holding down what way you're going, and if you're struggling with up, down, left, and right, or I should say up and down because it's inverted or not inverted. Honestly, sometimes it's just best if you just kind of go to that third person view. Alternatively, if you get really good at doing barrel rolls, it makes it a little easier.
Okay. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, because I'm sure first person barrel rolls aren't like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, no, honestly, all it does is like your little reticle just spins.
Oh, okay, nice. So then we go to the Space Armada. You have to defeat a series of enemy ships instead of just simply flying past them. And then you kind of do like a trench run based on Star Wars. I really liked those areas for some reason. It was definitely the most kind of constrictive. You definitely felt the most claustrophobic, and as you're flying up and down, this is definitely where you need to know you're up and down. Like you have no time to think about it. And then basically the end boss here was just the ending of Return of the Jedi. So
yeah, I feel like they ripped off Star Wars a fair bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, Star Wars was the first, basically taught us how space adventures were supposed to work. So up until that point, we just had people walking around being like, yes,
I'm on a different
we
planet.
that looks like Northern California for some reason. Isn't that right, Spock?
Yep.
That is logical. So
Absolutely.
all right, off to the Meteor. There's a lot of enemy fire going on here. You have to stay in motion to survive this part. So what's the difference between the asteroids? Oh, here's a question. What's the difference between asteroids and meteors?
Are asteroids not ones that are not in Earth's atmosphere, and then once they come into Earth's atmosphere, they're meteors, or do I have that reversed?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Nailed
Woo! So when you beat that, I never got past the big spider boss on this one, so poor me. We would then go to kind of the end part. Let's talk about the other two paths before talking about kind of the end game. Cool?
For sure.
Path 2. So I'll kind of keep talking. You can kind of take over for Path 3 because I never got through it. We go to Cornea. That's the opening area, so just every path starts with it. Then we go to Sector X, where there's lots of shapes flying at you. The first time I played this, I actually didn't know you could switch out a first-person mode, and basically I just ran into everything and died, and it was great.
Yeah, I feel like to get good at this game, you just almost have to memorize the levels and have it almost like muscle reflexes. Yeah. So if you're just playing it for the very first time, the difficulty curve is there's just gonna be things popping in your view, and you're gonna have like, what's that little blip over there? Oh, that's an enemy, and it shot me, and I took damage. And you're like,
yeah.
So
yeah. Then we're on to Titania, which is kind of a normal surface area. There's some kind of shapes and crabs, I guess you could call them, that you kind of move around for the most part. Nothing super spectacular here.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a black hole. What's the black hole do?
I think it's just another space level. I didn't actually think that there was a black hole. No. I think the bad guy in this pulls you towards them.
Okay.
Or something like that. And you have to hold the L and R button to like break out of their tractor beam.
Oh, interesting. And then you might have played that because I didn't. I just got to the next, I got to Sector Y rather than going to the black hole. So that was just always one of those things on the screen I never saw. So
yeah, I think it's part of the secret stages.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. There's a couple secret stages in this, and they're not necessary. So.
Awesome. So then we'll go to Sector Y, and this is an area where you kind of fly around in space, and I found it a bit less densely populated than most areas. So as opposed to the first area, Meteor, where I told you to move around as much as possible, I felt like Sector Y wasn't as densely packed, so you had a little bit more breathing room. So as for Path 3, What does Path 3 take us, or how does that work?
Well, this time when you're on Corneria, it's a different shading, which is interesting. Like in Path 1 and Path 2, it's nice and green and happy. And then in Path 3, it's like at dusk, so it's darker. I don't know. Which is pretty okay. And I think the boss here is a like tank guy, which is not too bad. You just got to know where his weaknesses are. And like once you memorize the kind of weaknesses on the bosses, you can just kind of spam that area until like it kind of turns, like, because it will kind of like close up and open, and when it opens up it'll shoot shit at you, and as long as you hit that or aim at that area, you'll do a ton of damage and almost destroy them before it even gets a chance to like launch things at you. And barrel rolls are helpful. Then we go to the asteroid. And the asteroid is literally just a slight variation of the asteroid belt on Pathway 1. So, again, but there is actually, like, asteroids with faces on it, which I thought was interesting. It's like, that's literally legitimately like a face off of Majora's Mask, the moon is. So, I thought that maybe a little reference there.
Interesting. Then
we go on to Fortuna. It's I think like a forest-y planet. Lots of bugs and kind of things. I don't really honestly remember this level all that much. I remember it being green, and
I remember thinking it was weird that flowers were enemies and would shoot stuff at you.
Yeah, there's a lot of strange enemies in this, but.
Do you know what the song Old Fortuna is?
No, I don't.
It's that song. It's like, hoo, hee, ho, ho, see, ho, so, so. I'll play it here. It's that song. So.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I wanted that to be included also in my wedding video with Whole New World, but. And, like, you know those stories like, here's the story of a girl, and it's like, she was a pretty little girl, look at her, she's so cute, here's some baby pictures, and then the next one is like, and she met a god. And just have
it's like Sephiroth, just first time you see him in like Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. Apparently you don't make your own wedding slideshow, but if anyone ever asks, that's what they're getting. So,
yeah, that's probably the most legit way of doing it. It's like, I'm going to turn this into a joke.
Oh, of course.
Because, let's face it.
People will remember it, you know?
Yep. Then we go on to Sector Z, which is...
Sector Z? What's a Z?
Z?
Yeah, that's right. You better be fucking Canadian.
Okay, Sector Z. Sorry, I always mess those two up. It's that Valley Girl in me, I must say. Pretty much very similar to the other space sectors like Y and X, but there's a lot of stuff coming at you and rotating kind of just like L's and T's, and they just like, you have to kind of just time your boost or your brake to get through them. I find if you just kind of boosted and once you kind of got on the right path, you were good. It's kind of like in Castlevania with the Medusa heads. If you mistime it, you're going to hit every single one. But if you time it right, you can just keep going straight and not have to worry about it.
Excellent.
The one point about these is there's these little like blue things that come flying at you. And they do a ton of damage and are hard as heck to avoid. And barrel rolls didn't seem to be my effective strategy that it always used to be. So that kind of sucked. And then moving on to Macbeth, it's a Shakespeare play. No, I know nothing about Macbeth. So
I really wish he started just diving into it, because I'd be like, this would make me so happy.
Well, it's really about this guy that him and his wife conspire to murder the king.
Is that
And
isn't Macbeth just the Lion King, or is that Hamlet?
Hamlet.
See, that's where I would be confused. Like Macbeth and Hamlet, I don't know what the difference is. So, but we'll play it. We'll play a joke. Internet will enjoy that. Applause.
Macbeth is about the husband and wife that kill the king so he can overthrow it and become the king. But then Macbeth actually feels guilty about it. In Hamlet, it's the uncle that kills the king and marries the queen, and then it's the son that's like, man, this guy killed my dad. I'm really upset, and has that whole famous speech.
Literally the Lion King. So
Yeah,
right,
basically.
Well then.
Yep.
I don't even think you should discuss that level. I think you just move on.
Okay, fair enough. Then we're on to Venom.
So those are the end of the 3 different stages. So the 1, 2, I kind of went through. Tyson discussed stage 3. So kind of normal, hard, very hard, and then this is the end game, right? So Venom, you can keep rolling.
There's actually 3, depending on which pathway you took. Venom has 3 different variations.
Gotcha.
So if you take pathway 2, that's the back door of Venom.
Okay.
So it's basically like a long trench run with a lot of pillars, and every different stage of Venom has 3 different stages within it. So it's kind of like the opening space part, and then you get into the level or actually onto the planet, and there's a boss at the end of each of these stages. And after you get through the second stage, you go into the interior, and it's kind of the trench run again from Return of the Jedi. And after you get to the very end, you run into Andros, who is a great ape, and you shoot his mask, and then as he kind of pukes rotating squares at you, which I didn't know what that's all about, but sure, I'm not putting any logic into this.
Smart.
Yeah, and once you kind of destroy the mask or the shell, you see a cube that has literally all his faces on it. Reminded me of the rotating cube from whatchamacallit. No, that's not right. I was thinking of Superman, when they put everybody into that rotating
Dead zone.
little dead zone. Yeah, but it's not a cube, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a flat piece of paper. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
So once you destroy all that, basically he blows up and head on home.
Nice. Yeah, you get a recap of your adventure, percent of the areas of each area, and total score. And then the credits, you get a boss gallery and the names of everything and the stats that they have, because you gotta love Super Nintendo for telling you all that stuff after the fact, you know?
Oh yeah, it's super helpful.
So current thoughts on this title for yourself? I don't know. This game, like I said, honestly disorienting. The first time I played it, I actually took a break because I was getting kind of sick just from the controls. I think they did a good job based on the hardware. I don't know if they could have made the polygons look like anything else. But, I mean, it basically just looks like it's like Shape Wars. If they called this game Shape Wars, that's what was going on, right? Like, they didn't really need a story. Just be like, the shapes are attacking. Stop them. I don't know. And I feel like you need a lot of patience and practice. You could enjoy this title. So, yeah. So, that was my first experience. A week went by. Tyson played the game. I played it again, actually, last night. I had a lot more fun, found the controls a lot more fluid, was able to fight bosses, had strategies, was able to avoid stuff, actually move around asteroids rather than just running into them. And I think, I don't know where that came from. I think it was just that little bit of practice, knowing what I was getting into, and I think you had a good time. So bear in mind, this game is very abrasive at first, but if you get used to it, it's worth it. So that's kind of my thoughts on the game.
Yeah, when I first played it, I was really struggling because I've played like games like this in the past where I needed to play non-inverted. So I did the non-inverted style, and I just like literally just died after the third level. And I was like, why do I suck at this game? And it just took me just messing around with the controls a little bit before I was like, oh, okay. No, now it's second nature. And I kept using my bombs instead of just shooting my blasters. So it's stuff like that. I feel like once you get used to the controls of this game, it's a lot more enjoyable experience. Yeah. But you're right, it's very disorienting to look at, and there's a couple times where just like the pop-ups of bad guys or bosses or things in the distance, you're like, I don't know if that's an enemy or what. The first time you see it, it all just looks like little dots and polygons, and it's not the smoothest looking thing. So coming from modern games, this is really disorienting and hard to look at, but you eventually get used to it once you've played it enough. But that's my opinion.
Cool. And then what would you change of this game? I said honestly, I think for what it is, I think, and considering the limitations, I think this game is great, kind of looking back. Maybe a save feature with the SNES Classic. There is kind of you can do the save states, so that definitely helps. Take advantage of that. And then maybe like some type of setting change where maybe you can increase the number of lives that you get per mission. Because if you had 9 lives and you could play through this game, I think you could beat it. And then maybe you aren't rewarded with as much. Like maybe you just get the credits and like try again on a harder setting to unlock this, right? So kind of hold people's hands, put training wheels on the bikes, and then once they learn how to ride, let go of their hands and take the training wheels off, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I agree. The only other thing I'd like to have added, they added in number 2, which was the character select. Which I think would be kind of interesting to play as a different character. I think it'd add more replay value, and if each different person had their own strengths and weaknesses, which they do in the second one, I think that'd be really a lot more fun, because playing as just the generic plane flying around can kind of get a little boring by the time you're like, okay, now I'm in another space section. Okay, I'm on another planet. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so that's Star Fox 1. Hopefully, luckily, we're like halfway done. We still have a whole other game to discuss today. So, we're going to look at the newly released Star Fox 2.
It's time to play it loud. With over 20 awesome, radical features. Go back in time with Rewind. Pick a frame that fits your style. Save anytime, anywhere with Suspend Point. Experience super effects technology and the never-before-released Star Fox 2. 21 games, 2 controllers, 1 sweet deal. Now you're playing with power. Super power.
All right, so second game of this show, Star Fox 2. The release date was September 29th, 2017. But I thought you guys were a retro podcast. Why are you playing new games? Relax, we'll tell you. Don't worry.
Calm down.
We got this. How Long to Beat has this game at about 45 minutes. It's definitely worth your time and money. Price at release was $89.99, which, if we factor in inflation, is $89.99 today. eBay price, you can get a copy of this game for about $175 to $250. It's a heck of a markup. And this game is not available on any eShop. I also assume people are just like initiated that are listening to this, because there was like some inside jokes there. Maybe, I don't know.
And if you don't get the inside jokes by now, it's fine. Just keep listening.
Cool. So the development details of Star Fox 2. I'm glad it wasn't like Star Fox 2, The Adventures of Falco. This game was also written as Star Fox 2 during development. I don't know what that means. And was extensively covered by various gaming magazines at the time, both at its one E3 appearance as well, and many screenshots provided to Nintendo to generate interest in the sequel. It is likely that a promotional video was put together at the time, though no copies of it have been made public. So what happened was they went to create this game. They were going to release it in 1996, so 3 years after the first game came out. But there was a new system coming out called the N64, which rendered graphics in a 3D environment much better and cleaner. So they actually just moved their efforts from Star Fox 2 to Star Fox 64. So they actually skipped 62 sequels to this game. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty good that they could they didn't just release all those different variations, because I mean it really would have flooded the market.
Yeah, exactly. And then these games would be worth nothing, right? So
basically
absolutely nothing. But as a result, there was a fan version that was made of this game that contained minor bugs and had a debug code. These ROMs can be played using the SNES emulator. Additionally, a fan-made patch is in circulation for the near final ROM. This fixes most of the bugs, removes the debug code and the unfinished features, and translates the game's dialogue into English. When asked whether or not this would be released on the Wii's Virtual Console or the Nintendo DS, Star Fox designer Takaya Imuyara said, probably not. The staff members of IGN suggested that high production costs and internal development also contributed to its cancellation. I think it was probably more about the point where they were looking ahead at their shiny new toy, and they said, it'd be great if we took Shape Wars and we put it on the N64 so people know that they're like cool ships and not just shapes. Not just
and they did this.
Shapes.
Nintendo has a precedent almost for being like, oh, well, we have a new system coming out, so canceled those games that were coming out in the older system. Like, but they're like basically done. It's like, yeah. No, you don't know. No, you're not allowed to release that. No.
Yeah. And then according to Dylan Cuthbert, some programming elements done for this game, such as camera programs, were adapted and reused for the development of Super Mario 64. Shigeru Miyamoto also stated that ideas such as all-range mode, multiplayer, and Star Wolf scenarios came from Star Fox 2. He established that 30% of Star Fox 64 came from Star Fox 2. So that's why I'm thinking they just kind of were like, hey, let's scrap this, move on to bigger and better things. Additionally, several game components have been reused in Star Fox Command for the Nintendo DS. Among these are the map screen gameplay element and the ability to choose from multiple characters, each with their own unique fighters and statistics. The concept of the R-Wing transforming into the Walker was reused in Star Fox Zero. So this game fundamentally had a lot of elements that carried on and is still alive in the Star Fox series today. Even though I guess it just came out a few months ago, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, really impacted the history of this game, even though it came out in 2017.
Yeah, exactly. So, the controls of this game. Controls very similar to the first game. This game, however, has an easy, normal, and hard mode. So, hooray! I don't know if there's a way to switch from first person to third person. You're basically stuck in third person in this game. So, was not a fan. Went back. It's better. Yeah.
It's getting there.
And then the overworld map, I think, is a great improvement on the path selection from the first one. So the first one was kind of an arcadey, on-the-rails shooter, basically, whereas this one kind of had a real-time strategy map component to it, which we'll get to more in some of the level notes. So, anything to add on terms of the controls?
No. I thought running around as the little all-terrain walker was a lot of fun, because you got to shoot a lot of those in the first one, so it's nice seeing that the good guys ripped off the bad guys' designs.
Nice. Alright, so to remember what life was like back in September 29th, 2017, let's get into our patented Wayback Machine, turn the dial, get the juices, the Tang lemonade flowing, because that's how you time travel, FYI. And let's head back in time to September 29th, 2017. Favorite shows. I'm going to give Tyson a list of 2 shows. We're going to talk about them, and then he's going to decide what's his favorite show. So we'll look at The Simpsons, specifically the episode Dogtown. After a legal issue, dogs become more important than humans, after which they start to take over the town. So that sounds pretty great, right?
That does sound like an interesting idea.
I have actually seen that episode for some bizarre reason, so interesting. Or
fantastic.
American Horror Story, Cults. The storyline takes place before, during, and after the 2016 election in the United States. Specifically, the episode 11/9. The day after the election, Harrison becomes Kai's personal trainer. Kai takes Harrison under his wings and eventually convinces him to murder his degraded boss. Later, Kai takes a special interest in a news reporter named Beverly Hope and offers her equal power in his quest for domination. He investigates the murder of her rival, Sonera Belindo, as proof of his dedication to her. The day after the election, Ivy attends a political rally where she is groped by a man named Gary. Winter comes to Ivy's defense and the two have lunch together. That night, Ivy and Winter kidnap Gary and chain him to a pole in an abandoned building to prevent him from voting the next day. Kai comes to kill Gary's aide 1 hour before the polls close and offer him a saw. Gary severs off his chained hand. So that sounds like a pretty amazing out of context story that makes sense and isn't confusing, right?
Oh my god, I hate New American Horror Story.
The first season was good, right? The second season was good too. It was okay. It didn't. What was the third season? The Witches?
Or The Circus.
No, the Circus Freak Show was 4 because we never made it through it. So I watched the first
And
one.
number 2 was the
Asylum. Where everything's included. It's completely crazy and bonkers, and there's a weird Banana Fana number towards the end of it, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
The first season was good.
And then the third season, at one point, they're witches, and Stevie Nicks shows up and sings Seven Wonders because she's also a witch.
Oh god, I hate that show so goddamn much.
If I live to see 7 wonders, 7 wonders. All right, so now that
Okay, so we're choosing The Simpsons.
I'm playing 7 wonders, just FYI. Back on top, back to back in one episode, I think Tyson's has a Simpsons boner.
I really, 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 really hate American Horror Story. Or New American Horror Story. Season 1 was good.
It was good. Actually, I
one
heard
was
The
good.
Hotel was okay. Season 5, maybe? Season 6? I don't know. Maybe give it...
I stopped after about halfway through, too.
Yeah, fair enough.
I couldn't do
Top
it.
TV shows that were coming on in September 29th, 2017. We've got a show called Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, The Handmaid's Tales, and Big Little Lies. So, TV's pretty great, you know?
Yeah, it's okay.
Top cartoons that around this time that you could be watching. Star versus The Force of Evil. I don't know what that's about, but I feel like there's a lawsuit in there somewhere, you know?
A little bit.
Steven Universe, Samurai Jack, Adventure Time, and SpongeBob SquarePants is still going strong and one of the top-rated cartoons currently on television.
South Park's still a cartoon.
It was, but I don't think it was out around this time.
No, this is September. It was out.
Oh, all right. And South Park. Although the new season...
Oh, man. It gets better. Trust me. Oh, it gets better. You need to watch the newest episode. It gets better.
I don't like Heidi Cartman. It wasn't good.
It gets better. Just saying. Just saying.
Top movies. So you have a magic ticket. Maybe you get a Seen It Visa, like I did, and you get to go to a free movie. And you're like, oh, cool, what am I going to go to? You could go watch Kingsman, The Golden Circle, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, American Made, and It. So it's pretty exciting. It's weird that this is also like the same show within 2 weeks of each other that It was in theaters. So
Yeah. Well, I guess we're just going to have to go to It again.
what the fuck? Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, they re-released it.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like some anniversary of it. They're re-releasing Terminator to theaters coming up later this year.
Well, good thing Hollywood ran out of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Top video games that were released around this time. We'll say September 2017. Cuphead, NBA 2K18, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Metroid 2, Samus's Return, and Destiny 2. So, pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now, top 3 songs. And we're going to fly through these ones and then keep going because we're having fun. Number 3 song, according to the Billboard charts for September 29th, 2017. Number 3, New Rules by Dual.
Yeah, no, nothing.
Dua Lipa. That's the fucking dumbest name I've ever heard. So,
It's probably a dumb song.
hey, and then our number 1 song last 2 weeks ago is our number 2 song this week. Number 2 was Rockstar by Post Malone featuring. Yeah, pretty great. It's pretty great that it's not going away. And then, of course, this number 1 heart-wrenching power ballad. Number 1 is Too Good at Goodbyes by Sam.
Fun fact about Sam Smith: he has the honor of writing the worst James Bond themes. So that's good. That's good for him.
That's nice. Sorry, I get really emotional when I hear Sam Smith because he's so emotional and he's so sad. Fuck off, Sam Smith. Stupid jerk.
Yeah, he's just basically the absolute worst. That's why he has the honor of the worst James Bond theme of all time.
Yeah, interesting.
The worst.
Yeah. Well then, all right. Moving on. Now that we've got our juices flowing, we remember what life was like back September 29th, 2017. I feel like I've said that a lot. Oh man. We're going to talk about the first memories. So the first memories I had of this game was I heard about this game when it was announced for the SNES Classic. I thought it was pretty neat feature that the SNES Classic was bringing back this original unreleased title. So, cool. Do you have any first memories of this game?
I believe when I opened up the SNES Classic and I turned it on and then I booted it up. That was my first experience.
Really? You mean you didn't have to unlock it or something? It was just there?
Yeah, it was actually, which is weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm not even kidding you. There was a little package, and I just got clicked on it. It was like Star Fox 2, and you're like, I thought Nick said that we had to unlock this thing.
Yeah, I had to unlock it.
Yeah, so
Huh.
pretty cool stuff.
That's weird. I wonder if, because I bought it second hand from some guy, I wonder if someone's played it before.
Could have been.
Huh.
But I mean, they did a good job of repackaging everything darn near perfect. So
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
good for them if they did.
When I pulled it out, I was like, yeah, everything looks like there's no way you're ever putting. Weird. Actually, maybe you could just pick it and just play it. I assumed you had to play through the first world of Star Fox 1 to unlock Star Fox 2.
Maybe it could have been, because I did play Star Fox 1 first, but I swear I saw it sitting on a little package there, and I clicked on it, and I was like, cool.
It is a package, but you have to unlock it, you have to play through at least the first level of Star Fox 1. So maybe you did that. Huh, alright. Now we have the world's second greatest mystery. So what's the first? We're not sure yet. It's that much of a mystery.
Ooh, I know. Why is Sam Smith popular?
I don't know. He makes girls' ginies tingle. So with that note, we're going on to the story of this game. After his defeat in the original Star Fox, the game's antagonist, Andros, returns to the LAT system and launches an all-out attack against Corneria, using his new fleet of battleships and giant missiles launched from hidden bases on the destroyed planets. General Pepper again calls upon the Star Fox team for help. Apparently they still haven't had time to train new pilots. Armed with the new customized R-Wing, a mothership, and 2 new recruits,
Miyu, a lynx, and Faye, a dog. The Star Fox team sets out to defend Corneria by destroying Andross's forces before they can inflict critical damage on the planet. Along the way, Star Fox must also combat giant boss enemies, bases on planets throughout the Lat system, and members of the Star Wolf team. And then finally, Andross himself. I wonder what Andross did to get banished.
What a phenomenal story, you know? I like Star Fox games because the story's always so unique and diverse, you know?
Yeah, and it's very... There's a lot of layers to it.
You can tell it's a Nintendo title because Mario is just Bowser takes Princess, get her back. Link is get the Triforce, save the princess. Star Fox is stop androids. That's just Nintendo. They're like, what's the most simple generic story that will never ever will switch, but people will still like it and give us money?
How can we write this in one sentence?
Yeah, like Donkey Kong, they tried it in the new ones where they're like, what if like Tiki Heads came alive and like Donkey Kong had to save his islands from that? And everyone's like, I'm not really feeling Donkey Kong so much anymore. Like, if his banana hordes were just stolen, wouldn't that be better?
Yeah.
By like a crocodile effect?
Or if like Donkey Kong got captured.
Oh yeah, that became kind of a thing too. So
Yeah.
All right, on to the level notes. So, as mentioned before, I'm not going to kind of get into it too much. This is meant as supplementary. So, you've played the game, maybe you're playing the game currently. We're talking about it, maybe just like listening to us talk about this game that you've already played. So, hopefully you've done that. This game specifically is called a real-time strategy game. This means that the enemies react as you play. So the faster you make decisions, the greater advantage you have. The slower you move, though, the more time the enemy has to outthink you. Which isn't really the case, because technically the little missiles and enemies only move around the screen when you're moving, so you do have a little bit of free time to move the cursor around. So it's not a true real-time strategy game.
Yeah, but I mean, there is real-time things going on, and at any point during the missions, you can kind of pop out back to the main screen.
Yeah, the overworld map.
Yeah.
So you start off on the map of a galaxy. You have your home base, a few planets, a friendly kind of attack center, and the worlds that have enemy installations on them, as well as the enemy world, Venom, on the far side of the galaxy. You can select 2 of 6 pilots. So you got Falco, Fox, Falco, Slippy, Peppy, Miyu, the Tiger Girl, and Faye, a girl dog, as well as their... And then you get to pick one as a wingman. So your main character, the other one. Fox and Falco seem like they're the fastest. Slippy and Peppy have the most defense. And Miyu and Faye have the most attack power or something. I was looking at it yesterday, and I picked Slippy and Peppy because I found the more shield I had, I would be okay with it rather than maybe not being as quick. So...
Yeah, I don't think speed is all that.
Well, it's how fast you move around
important.
the map, right? So on like a higher
okay.
difficulty, you might get screwed over because at one point a big dragon comes and will attack Cornea, your like home base, and if it gets destroyed, the game is over. So you might not be able to get back in time to stop it. Whereas if you had a faster character, maybe you could. So
Yeah. Oh, actually, okay. So I actually have brought up the thing. Peppy and Slippy have the highest shields.
Yep.
Their energy charge is the slowest, and their speed is the slowest. Fox and Falco have medium shields, and then they have medium energy recharge and medium speed. And Miyu and Faye have the lowest shields. They're the fastest to recharge their energy, and their speed is the fastest.
Okay. So each advantage, like if you're starting off, Slippy and Peppy are probably your best, just because you're going to take lots of damage, and you don't have to worry about it as much. So the game starts when Venom sends warships, enemies, and mercenaries after you. You can fight off little enemy missiles that are on the map that kind of fly around. Typically, they take you into a dogfight, so you'll be in first person in a cockpit, and you have to fly around. Your other options, I guess you have 3 options. You can win, the enemies can escape, or you could be killed. Look at the variety of this game, you know?
Those options.
Those options. Each enemy base shoots missiles, so you have to defeat it so it won't fire missiles at Corneria. Each base has a member of the Star Fox or the Star Wolf team waiting for you. So I think I fought the pig, whatever his name was, and the
Pigma,
and then the lizard guy, whatever his Lenny,
Leon.
Great stuff.
The one I missed was Andrew, who I swore was Andross's like nephew.
Okay, maybe it's like a harder difficulty they come out.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. So
I was really disappointed when they didn't show up in the first game after playing. I was like, oh, maybe they're on like a specific route. No,
Gotcha.
No. Team Star Wolf does not show up in the first game.
Apparently, they appear here for the first time and only time. So very interesting. Where are we at? So if you are defeated at any point, you actually can continue your adventure as your wingman. So it's kind of that extra life, extra character, but however you miss them in battle and combat. So the one kind of downside to that. There are also carrier ships that you can attack and fly inside. You can fly or walk on your little kind of, ground crawler, ATV, whatever you want to call it. And then you have to destroy the core of the ship. If you leave them too long, they will fuck up Cornea and it will take some really big damage. So make sure to make those guys a priority. And then I think after you clear out all the enemies that Andross sends after you, a giant space snake randomly appears in front of Cornea. If you don't attack him right away, or you're on the other side of the galaxy, he's gonna fuck your shit up. He does these giant missile blasts, which deals like 20 damage per to Cornea. So chances are you're gonna die. The dogfights in this part, the first time I was playing it, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just flying around in space, just being killed. What you have to do is you really have to not only fly, watch where your targeting computer is telling you where to go, but also look at the map to see where your enemies are in each dogfight. It takes a little bit of skill. Mick, who wrote this, was not a fan of it. Mick now, the second Mick, the better Mick, the superior Mick, has a better understanding. And if you use boost and brake, it does kind of give you a little bit of advantage, but you have to be able to use kind of the 3D environment in the cockpit as well as your map to have an advantage.
Yeah, and one tip I will say is that like you'll basically do some damage to one of the enemies coming towards you, and then once they kind of fly past you, they fly past you a really, really, really fast. So keep an eye, like my eyes just dot to the I almost like really watch the mini map like crazy. So as soon as I see him like basically cruise past me, I'm immediately turning around and braking so I can kind of get him back in my sights, because I find you can get really wrecked if you aren't paying attention.
Well, the Space Snake was terrible for that. It would literally run into you and just sit on your ass and eat you. So you actually had to boost and brake and turn around to get a good shot at its mouth. I mean, it wasn't difficult, but it was the fact that it would sit behind you and fly exactly at your speed and just destroy you. That's how I died the first time I played this game.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it only takes damage when it opens its frickin' mouth, but it will do damage to you with its mouth shut, which is always a fun feature.
Oh yes. After you clear out a few enemies, oh sorry, that's the snake, you can use the mothership to recharge yourself. So if you have taken some damage, you can stop by, recharge yourself, as well as warp to Venom. But as soon as the system is cleared out, Star Wolf will challenge you to a dogfight. So that's really fun. He's a little bit better than Lenny, Larry, Leroy,
Leon,
and Tarian.
Pigma.
Yeah,
Pigma.
I knew Pigma. I was just trying to be an asshole.
Fair enough.
Destroy them, and you are warped to Andross's base. You kind of make your way through it until the end, where you fight the core and Andross's head cube thing again. Because I was like, didn't we just destroy you? Like, why are you back? Exactly the same. Like nothing happened. It's weird.
I feel like they ran out of time to develop the final boss in this game, because it's basically just the first one again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it does kind of start off like in a base like it is, and then you kind of go into a little bit of a dogfight with it where you have to fly around. But by this point, you should understand the controls, and it's not like it's more difficult than, say, the giant Space Snake or Star Wolf. So it's manageable. Then you have saved the day, and the credits roll. Yay! And in Super Nintendo fashion, you get to see the names of all the enemies as well as their stats. And I think they tell you what kind of missiles or bombs they shoot, and you're like, well, this is great. Hooray. You got a final
So helpful.
score and a chance to beat it the next time you play this title, because isn't that what 90s kids love? Beating scores of their friends. So
That's what it's all about.
that's what it's all about. It's like the Hokey Pokey.
Basically.
It's like the Hokey Pokey. So, current thoughts. I really like the real-time combat aspect of this game. I wish later titles would have actually adapted this, so rather than like Star Fox 64, more like this kind of overworld map and less just kind of the linear path system. It's like the arcade flight simulator. I don't know, wasn't a big fan of kind of that first-person mode. For some reason, I wish they would have had a third-person mode, but I wonder if they did that because they knew how bad the shapes looked, and they didn't want to just make it Shape Wars again, so potentially that's why they kind of just put it in the cockpit. I find you do get very confused where you are on the screen, so you definitely have to use that map system. Don't try and play the game without it. You can't do anything. Yeah, those are kind of my current thoughts. How are you feeling on this game?
I can see why it didn't come out, to be honest with you. It's not really flushed out. I like the overworld idea, but it's too short.
Yeah.
Like, there's some times where you run into a missile and you blow up 3 things, and it's like within, I felt 30 seconds, it was over. You're like, wow, I wrecked that, apparently. Moving on to the next thing, it almost felt like there were just slight inconveniences and that there wasn't actually any priorities. And then when you got to the planets, they were short missions. They weren't actual like long levels. If you knew what you're doing, you were like could breeze through them in a minute or two. And doing that really didn't feel all that satisfying. So I completely understand why they scrapped this and just moved on to the next game in the series. I think that they should have taken some more ideas from this game, like taken the open world feel and do the actual tunnel runs for the levels, but
It's interesting that none of the other games uses kind of that real-time strategy that this was obviously going for. I mean, that's, I don't know, kind of a shame. I think like Star Fox for the Wii U probably could have done that to make it not just a high-definition version of Star Fox 64.
True.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Anything you would change? Like, I wasn't a big fan of the first-person view, but after getting used to it, especially with the map screen, it was okay. And I think, again, I think they did it to hide just the fact that it was Shape Wars, and they didn't want another Shape Wars going on. So
yeah. The only thing I would change is instead of having have a tunnel run up into where they get to like the island or the where you actually would get to the planet and do it like they did. So you have to like flip the switch, go into the actual like underground thing, defeat the boss, and then blow it up. Like it would add some length to this game and maybe a little bit more satisfying gameplay as opposed to it basically being inconvenienced and more just managing your map and slowly ticking things off the checklist until Starwolf shows up, beat him, and then on to Andross.
yeah, okay, fair enough. So that was Star Fox 1 and 2 on the SNES Classic. If you get one for Christmas or spend $200 on eBay to get one, or maybe they're re-released next year and you get this and you're like, neat. I would definitely say these games are worth checking out.
Yeah, it's worth burning a Sunday afternoon on playing through them all because you can easily get through them on a Sunday.
Well,
so.
The fact we've been talking for about an hour and a half on this podcast on these 2 games, I don't know how we talked for so long. Well,
we talked about other things.
30 minutes, though. Like, we talked 30 minutes on just the second show part. So, and then 10 minutes at the start. So that means we talked 50 minutes on the first game. That's weird. There must be some... anyways, so if you could listen to this whole podcast and beat probably one of these games, or make a really good dent in one of them. But we will, rather than continue to talk, we are going to finish with an Are You Buying It? And then we're out of here. So, an Are You Buying It? This is where I ask kind of about game theories or theories on the games. Legless Heroes? So, as mentioned earlier in the promotional material, this showed the Star Fox crew with little robotic legs. The theory or thought here is if you have pilots and you cut their legs off so that their legs are just mechanical, it would make them fly better. Because the G-forces presumably suck your legs to your lower extremities and the blood away from your brain. So because there's no brain in your blood, there's no blood in your brain, you pass out and you can't handle it. If, however, you cut off someone's legs, that's a good, I don't know, depending what the person's size is, maybe upwards of like 30 to 50% of their body mass, just gone. Which means more blood would stay in the upper part of the body, allowing them to withstand more G-forces. So are you buying it that the reason they have little legs is to make them superior pilots?
If that actually is the thing that makes you pass out from G-forces, the blood getting stuck to your legs, I buy it. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, cool. There's Matt Pat did a film theory on like why Spider-Man would die, because while he's swinging on his web, there's so much G-forces, all the blood in his body would literally just pool into his legs, and he would pass out and never be able to like actually swing on his web the way he does.
Huh, hot darn.
Yeah, and I think like they're just like the trajectory he goes at. So, but I mean, if Spider-Man had like no legs and was just his arms, he would less likely pass out. So there you go. Very weird design choices that are also very truthful to how those things exist in real life.
Fascinating.
Very fascinating indeed. Awesome. Well, good episode. Good talk. Did we miss anything?
No, I think we covered those short games very in-depthly for an hour and a bit.
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Well, I think all we have left, our next episode will be Earthbound, where we're looking at the RPG. I can't see that show being extremely long. Like, my only concern is maybe we run out of time on our bandwidth with our account. But we'll try harder on the next episode to make it a little shorter. So no concerns. Hopefully everyone's enjoying your Christmas holidays. Winter's treating you okay. You guys are all ready for Christmas. You're not too stressed out. We will be back shortly after Christmas, so you hear us on the other side. So maybe if you're going on a road trip, you listen to our podcast and you like us and check us out.
And follow us on Twitter and Facebook and check us out on YouTube.
Yes. So with that, our new YouTube channel that's coming out. That's pretty exciting. We have old episodes coming up on YouTube. So just another way of accessing it. Maybe it should be added to our show notes.
Probably.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. You can contact Podtendo at Podtendo Podcast. Email us at podtendo@gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Podtendo, and potentially we're also on YouTube at YouTube/Podtendo. Is that the URL for YouTube?
I have no idea.
We'll figure that out and maybe be more clear on these things in the future. Goodbye, everyone. Yep. Also, the music of Podtendo was used without permission as property of Nintendo. Bye.
Bye.